Hi everyone, so this week I'm talking about focus on the Mavic 2 Pro, Bumblebee. Very often you only get one chance to shoot a picture or video, and it being in pin sharp focus should be an absolute given. Unfortunately, despite all the autofocus settings available to you in the Go app, the bottom line is your drone's camera is always moving and the distance between it and the subject is always varying, and sometimes it can all go wrong. Hello! So this week I was playing around with these ND filters from TyFoto. I'm not actually going to talk about ND filters in this video, as I've already done a video on that and their use when flying over water or trying to slow down your shutter speed. I only got these this week and I was pretty impressed with the German shot glass and the fact that TyFoto will actually replace them if you accidentally damage or scratch them, which I figured was such a pretty cool guarantee. Anyway, as ever, the link below if you want more information. But the main point is, whilst I was playing with these over water, over the pond, I was having to set the focus manually as water often confuses the autofocus. And that reminded me of my recent trip to Iceland, where I lost an entire clip due to the focus being out and not noticing this until I got back and was viewing the video on a larger screen. I have to say, nothing kicks you in the teeth more than seeing a great clip or picture ruined by being out of focus. So today we're working out on how to stop this happening and making sure everything is hunky-dory when you get back to your big screen. As ever, if you like what I do in these tutorials, click the subscribe button to let my videos occasionally pop up in your YouTube feed. Click the bell if you want to get notified about every video I upload. Easy. Right, focus. The Mavic 2s and the Go4 app come with some pretty decent camera settings that try and help you get pin sharp focus all the time. Unfortunately, they don't always work that well. That said, if you know what they are and you know what they're trying to do, you're at least one step ahead. So let's go straight into the Go4 app and look at what it offers. The first setting is AFC, or Autofocus Continuous. This is supposed to continually autofocus, but as many people may know, it doesn't always work. In addition, if you tap anywhere on the screen, it'll initiate a brief refocus, and that can interrupt your video with the temporary blur and refocus. Coming out of the settings on the main screen, you actually have, hello ducks, this little setting up in the top right, AF and MF. AF stands for autofocus, and it will simply autofocus whenever you tap the screen, and it will stay like that until you tap again. You can tap anywhere in the screen and it will do its best to focus on that spot. Just make sure you're tapping on a high contrast area where the subject is clearly defined and doesn't just blend in with its surroundings. You can also half press the right shutter button, and that will also initiate an autofocus, much like most handheld cameras. Autofocus is good, but it can fail you if you accidentally tap the screen trying to get a particular subject and you tap in an area that's actually much closer or further than the subject. It also fails pretty catastrophically if you start recording before takeoff. The camera focuses on the near ground and fails to refocus as the drone lifts off. There is a third setting, manual focus. This gives you a virtual focus wheel on screen and allows you to manually move the focus in and out as you need to. I should add at this point, for the avoidance of doubt, green means that selection is selected, white is unselected. There's no immediate obvious confirmation of which colour means what, but when you check on manual focus is green, you'll see that virtual focus wheel, so you know you're on manual focus. So a routine that works for many is to use autofocus and to tap the screen or the subject to make sure that it's focused on what it is you're trying to shoot, and then you can switch to manual focus to ensure there are no further changes in the focus, even if you accidentally tap the screen. This works very well, albeit a bit convoluted. Some people also set the manual focus to infinity and leave it at that. You can see the infinity symbol as a little sideways figure 8. And at the other end, you also have a flower symbol that indicates close-up macro, although the closest you can actually focus with the Mavic 2 Pro is around 1 meter or 3 feet. Again, this approach will work for many, but just like a DSLR camera lens, you can't always rely on the infinity symbol, and sometimes you'll find the sharpest setting is actually just before the infinity mark, but not actually on it. So here I should actually briefly mention the aperture, which has a huge effect on the depth of field, or how much of your subject distance will be in focus for you. The Mavic 2 has a variable aperture. The higher the aperture f number, the smaller the actual aperture is, and therefore the more in focus things are going to be, regardless of their distance from you. But whilst going up to the Mavic's maximum aperture setting of f11 will help things get super sharp, it's also making the aperture so small that hardly any light gets into the sensor. So in order to compensate for that, the shutter speed slows right down, which is going to introduce motion blur, and the camera will also increase its sensitivity to handle this reduced light. And as anyone that's taken a photo in poor light knows, increasing the ISO always increases the grainy noise of the picture, and the results are pretty poor. So to be clear, I suggest you keep the Mavic aperture up to or below 4 to 4.5 to make sure you don't get any graininess on your picture. So where are we now? Well, autofocus and continuous autofocus are good but not great. Manual focus is good, but it can be a little bit convoluted. What else can we do? Well, think about what our biggest issue is. The fact that we're using a tiny little screen to try and record these pictures and video. And it's really hard to actually check if anything is in focus when you're filming because the screen is so small. But there is a really handy little tool hidden away and unfortunately switched off by default. But it can really help overcome this small screen issue. It's called focus peaking, and this setting overlays a little red line where items are most in focus. To switch this on, jump into the camera settings and select peaking threshold. You can choose from low, standard or high. More red is good. More red means more is in focus. But if you set the threshold to low, then you're actually going to get an awful lot of red on your screen, because it simply means that even subjects that are mostly in focus will also give you red. So the idea is that the threshold sets how sharp you want things to be before they actually get their red line. So if you go for standard or even high, you'll only end up getting red on the parts of the screen that are perfectly in focus. So how do you make sure you're always in focus? Well, 1. Autofocus continuous. It's helpful, but it's not perfect, so know its limitations, and to be honest, I would try to avoid using it. 2, use standard autofocus to tap on a clear subject. Then either make sure you don't tap the screen again, or flip it over to manual focus and don't touch that wheel, and you should stay in focus. Still a bit convoluted. 3, if you know that you mostly shoot landscape shots, then do some testing, find your perfect infinity spot on the manual focus wheel and just leave it at that. Once it's set, you'll know exactly what the best setting is for you, and unless you're actually going to be shooting something very close up, that setting will do for almost all of your video. And 4, as I just said, switch on focus peaking threshold to have that little red line appear on the most elements of your subject that are most in focus, and it will also act as a really good reminder. Make sure that you're checking that things are in focus. So there you go guys, hopefully that's explained what all the different settings are, what the modes are, and what you can do to try and keep things pin sharp every single time. I would be really interested to hear how you manage to keep things in focus, whether or not I've missed out anything or if you've got any alternative ideas. So drop a comment below and let me know. And as I said earlier, if you've liked what I've done, hit the subscribe, and if you really like what I've done, then click the little thumbs up and click the bell notification, which will let you know every time I upload a video. Either way, hope it's all been helpful. Until next time, have fun, happy flying.